what would be your advice to parents when they basically don't have another chance? They have to stay apart from their child for some time, maybe sometimes it's even months.
Mm.
So what could they do once they have this reunion? So what would be your sort of advice for them?
Well, first of all, let me say a few things about how a parent can be prior to the reunion. I think, if the infant is premature and if however long it would be required for a stay in the hospital, the more presence that the parent or parents can have in relation to the child, the better. So if the conditions would allow for, once a day or twice a day or at all, the mother, the caregivers to hold the infant, then certainly take that opportunity. The more contact, the better. But that's not always possible, of course. And if that's not possible, I think if the mother, if the parents can go to be near the infant in the hospital, that is a good thing too. Some people might say, well, if you believe in energetic connection and the energy fields that are created between close people, then somehow that will be supported by just being in the same proximity, even if not able to be holding or in physical contact. Even if you don't believe in that kind of energetic connection, when a caregiver, say the new mother, is able to somehow be near the infant, even looking through a window and seeing the infant in the incubator, that is going to start building the attachment connection felt by the mother.
Mm-hmm.
If the mother only stayed home and, waited for news from the hospital about when it's possible to come get the child, that's not going to be as supportive of the mother building her sense of connection and love for and bond with the infant as if she was able to, or she regularly was at the hospital or nearby, or even just knowing the infant was in the other room and getting care by the medical staff. That's going to be very helpful for her bond to the infant, which will be helpful to both of them when the infant finally is able to come home.
Mm-hmm.
If the mother and the father uh, can talk with the medical staff regularly, to be at the hospital, talk with the nursing care people who are caring for the infant, to hear directly something about the infant from the caregivers, the medical caregivers, that's also going to build the sense of connectedness and connection with the infant. So when we think about attachment, usually we think about mostly how the infant bonds with the caregiver. But attachment is a dyadic phenomenon. It involves pairs of people, or even more when you think of more extended family. But the primary attachment bond between the infant and the primary caregiver, usually the mother, works both ways. So we want the mother to feel a sense of attachment bond with the infant, just like we want the infant to feel that with the mother. And if both of them are feeling that in some way, that's going to strengthen the bond that both of them feel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And after they basically reuniting and coming back home, what could be their sort of, based on these 5 conditions that you explained in the other video? So what could be sort of the tips, the first steps that mother or caregiver should take?
I would say follow the same guidance and the same principles that a new parent would follow if the infant was not premature or could have come home right away from the hospital, or maybe even was born at home. That to be aware of those 5 principles, those 5 conditions that support secure attachment, and whenever it's possible for the caregiver to follow those and to bring those into the relationship, that's a good thing. So even if the premature infant had to be in the hospital for a month, a month or longer, when the infant is home, And as I said earlier, if the caregivers are able to go to the hospital and do some of it while there, that's fine. That's really good. If not, of course, that's not always possible. And when the infant is home, to really be aware of the value of being protective of the infant. You know, if the infant had been premature, maybe he or she will have some special needs for care by the mother, by the caregivers upon coming home. You know, so maybe that protectiveness and that attentiveness to the physical needs, the medical needs of the infant, may be part of the early caregiving task, depending on what the infant went through. So that fits right very well into the notion of the caregiver being protective and supporting safety for that young infant. Obviously, being attuned and being really attentive to the child's needs and the parent trying to be available as best as possible in a good enough way to meet the needs of the infant upon being home. So comforting when the child is upset, that's the third condition. Really being delighted by the child. You know, it's possible that if an infant had been in hospital for a while, the parent may be even more delighted by the infant because finally she's home, finally he's home. It's like, oh, what a gift, what a delight. So, you know, to really feel that and express that, the child will feel that from the caregivers. And then just when ready, usually the last condition, which is support for exploration, that's something that usually develops a little bit, you know, once the infant gets a little bit older and is able to start exploring things. But right at the initial reunion and for the first days or the first weeks, bringing in those conditions as much as possible will be very helpful. Will go a long way, I think, toward healing whatever hurts may have happened in either or both the infant and the mother because of that initial unfortunate separation.